Welcome back to the game plan. Noah Mueller here. It's been a long time since we've done one of these episodes, so there's a lot of things to review. We got the College Football National Championship that has been played, as well as the Super Bowl that had been played just about a week and a half ago. And we got a whole lot more about the NFL. Let's get into it. We're going to start off here with the Super Bowl. The Philadelphia Eagles, representing the NFC, played against the Kansas City Chiefs, representing the AFC. And this is a rematch of a Super Bowl 2 years ago in which the Chiefs won. And, this was just complete domination. The entire game, the Eagles end up winning the Super Bowl 40-22. Chiefs shouldn't even have had 22. It was just a bunch of garbage time points that they had scored, try and make it look decent. But this was just a full Philly blowout. It evidently showed that the Chiefs got worse over the last 2 years and the Eagles got a whole lot better, considering they brought in Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator. They built up the defense with a bunch of young guys, and the offense had just kept on developing and kept on getting better. And, of course, the addition of Saquon Barkley, which didn't do too much this game. He had a pretty silent game, which pretty much gave Jalen Hurts the Super Bowl MVP. But this was a very big show by the Eagles. It can definitely convince a lot of people that they can go back-to-back if they keep this roster. This Eagles roster was just too bolstered, too stacked up for any team to really compete with this year. And I think it's unbelievable the Eagles even lost to give them the regular season. I guess they just had to come together as a team and kind of adjust to the new year. But Philly wins the Super Bowl. It's a great day for Eagles fans, horrible day for Giants fans like myself. And we are off the offseason in the NFL. And I'll go over my opinion later on what my MVP pick would have been for that game. Next up, we got the College Football National Championship, in which Ohio State defeated Notre Dame to win the national championship by a score of 34-23. This was a much better game than the Super Bowl. You had Ohio State taking a big lead at the start with the Jeremiah Smith touchdown, and then I think a Quishon Judkins touchdown. And then Notre Dame kind of climbing back into the game with a bunch of passes from Riley Leonard to Jaden Greathouse. And this is a great game for Greathouse. I think he had about 9 catches, 100-something yards, and 2 touchdowns, which was very unexpected, especially from their slot receiver. Nonetheless, though, Notre Dame, they had a great season, especially in the playoffs. But Ohio State's roster is just stacked. You had Travion Henderson, Quishon Judkins as your 2 backs. You had Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka as your wide receivers. You had Will Howard as your quarterback, and then you had a whole bolstered-up defense with leaders like Jack Sawyer, who had been there every year. And it's just an unbelievable comeback of a season for Ohio State, especially after that Michigan game they played at the end of the year. And this is probably going to end up keeping Ryan Day his job, which isn't the greatest thing for Ohio State fans, but you just won a national championship. You can't really hold your head low on that one. Moving on back to the NFL here. The NFL honors were about a week ago, and the MVP, the tight race between Saquon Barkley, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen, that race is over as Josh Allen, who I thought was the most deserving candidate, wins the MVP. There was unbelievable season from Saquon Barkley, over 2,000 yards. Great statistical season from Lamar Jackson. But in terms of value to a team, which I think the award should be more based off of, Josh Allen, the Bills wouldn't have even been in the playoffs if it wasn't for Josh Allen. He played unbelievable this year. The roster went down. They lost Diggs. They lost both their safeties, Poyer and Hyde. And I think it was an unbelievable season for the Bills, much more than anyone would have expected from this team. And that's all thanks to Josh Allen and the unbelievable year he had commanding this offense. I do think McDermott should be fired at some point because this team should be able to get over the hump. They just can't seem to do it. And I think the Bills can definitely make the Super Bowl next year. Just make a couple moves, get a couple players, one which I'll talk about later. But, great season for the Bills. Congratulations to Josh Allen. He definitely deserved it this year, his first MVP win. And it's a big one for him. Moving on to Myles Garrett, the Cleveland Browns superstar edge rusher, requesting a trade out, which is pretty expected considering how bad the Browns have been with such a good roster. The question is, where will he go? I mean, there are really three contenders that could really use him, one being the Buffalo Bills, who I just talked about. They're about one or two pieces away from really going to the Super Bowl. And Myles Garrett, that's a huge piece right there. You got to give up a lot of picks, sure. But if you're in win now mode, Myles Garrett is the ideal player to get as he is in his prime right now. The second team, the Washington Commanders, we saw them make a trade at the deadline to go get Marshawn Lattimore, who played horrible, honestly. But it shows that they're not afraid to go out there and get seasoned veterans to help their team get over the hump and try and make it further into the playoffs and prepare for that. So Myles Garrett would be another ideal pick for them. That would really bolster that D line. You'd have the two D tackles, Payne and then Jonathan Allen, and then you would also have Myles Garrett off the edge, which would be unbelievable for that Washington defense. Considering the Washington offense is great, the defense is pretty bad this entire year, besides a few key players like Mikey Sainristil, and I mean the linebacking core was great too, Bobby Wagner being a real leader on that defense. But they could really use him. And then third, they're not going to go for him, but the Detroit Lions could very well get him and pair him up with Hutchinson, which would be probably one of the most lethal edge rushing combinations of all time, if not the most, considering Myles Garrett's in his prime, one of the best edge rushers probably ever very soon. And Aiden Hutchinson had an unbelievable year before he got hurt, and they're rehabbing him up for next year, and I'm excited to see what happens with that. It's a very unlikely shot that the Lions go get him. I honestly think the Commanders or the Bills are the most likely to get him, but I mean, it would be unbelievable to see Myles Garrett on that Lions defense that had been amazing this entire past year. But my pick on where he's going to go is probably going to be, I'd say, Washington. I think they're in a position where they have the GM to go out and get him, who would do that. And also, they are definitely in a win-now mode with having finally a good quarterback. And especially with what happened with RG3 a whole while ago, they don't want to waste what they have with this quarterback. My last topic of the day will be, did they get the Super Bowl and National Championship MVP correct? I'm going to say no on this one. National Championship, Will Howard got the MVP, which obviously was wrong. I mean, star running back Quishon Judkins, he had 3 touchdowns as a running back, which I thought was unbelievable, and I thought it was absolutely crazy they didn't give it to him. I mean, yeah, it definitely shows that it's a quarterback-based award, but he 100% should have won that, especially with the amount of stuff he did on the offense. It was an unbelievable day for him. I couldn't believe that he didn't get it. And as for the Super Bowl, I don't think they got this one correct either. Jalen Hurts played a great game. He's deserving if there wasn't a man named Josh Sweat on the defense who got 2.5 sacks, a whole bunch of pressures, and carried that D-line to obliterate Mahomes. I mean, the D-line was getting to him in under 2 seconds. It was an unbelievable performance, especially against an O-line like the Chiefs with Creed Humphrey, Joe Tooney, Trey Smith, and a whole bunch of other players. I mean, the fact that he was able to get off the edge that quickly and get to the quarterback just shocked me. It was unbelievable. And it was also unbelievable to me that even though the award never goes to an edge rusher, I think he had one of the better performances an edge rusher has ever had in the Super Bowl. And it was absolutely crazy that he didn't get it. And also, Cooper DeJean could have gotten it if they really wanted to lowball there on the defense. Cooper DeJean had that big pick 6 before the half, and that's what really propelled the Eagles straight into the half to come back out, get more points on the board. So I don't think they got the Super Bowl MVP correct. I think it wasn't a bad choice in the Eagles game. I think it definitely was in the Ohio State game, considering what Judkins did. But I think they could have done better on the Super Bowl pick. That'll be it for the game plan. Next episode, we'll be talking about baseball, as pitchers and catchers have just reported back to their teams for the MLB spring training season. So that will be the topic of next episode, predicting a whole bunch of things. Thank you for watching the game plan, and we'll see you next time.